Ice Age returns. Um, we've waited. I think this is our longest wait yet between movies. Tell me about this idea to bring Ice Age back and why this story was the right one to tell.
It's time. I mean, 20 years ago was the first one, and we've done a lot since then, since the last one. And I think it was time to bring it back. I think people were asking, wanting it to come back, and couldn't thrill me and more than that. I think this is the way to go for us because we've done 5 movies, and we've done 5 movies with gigantic casts, a big, huge family herd of characters. And we wanted to sort of focus in on a couple of characters, a few characters that we really loved, that the audiences really loved, that we never really had a chance to spend a lot of time with because there's so many characters to service in all the movies. So we chose Buck because he's crazy and he's larger than life and he's eccentric and he talks to rocks and whatever, and he's down in the lost world. He's guardian of a lost world of dinosaurs. Well, I mean, who wouldn't want to spend more time there and spend more time with a character as lovable as he is? And Crash and Eddie, who adore him and idolize him, it felt like time in the timeline of the Ice Age franchise that it was time for them to think about growing up and going out on their own a little bit, but not sure that they could do it. So I think that felt like the right story to tell, and it was still at the base, the heart, a family story with Ellie needing to let her brothers go and not knowing that she could, and her learning at the end that even though you're not not in the same place, you're still part of the family. And that was a great message. And we didn't plan it during COVID. We wrote it way before COVID, but it still actually feels like a good message during these times as well. I think that was the right story for us to tell, and we wanted to be able to focus in a little bit more and get to know these characters better.
Other than that, Buck is so fun and awesome, but he also always has his heart in the right place. He's very centered, got a very unflappable sort of positivity and loyalty. And so it was great to tap into that and test him a bit by the introduction of the Z character. So that it just brings in a new dimension to Buck with the introduction of her.
Just talking about the franchise in general, because you both have been there since the start, correct? So to see, like, in the end credits, we have the drawings, right, that were done by like the children of the animators who are now at the club. I don't know where they are, but
they probably have children of their own now.
Yeah. Is that wild to think about? Because you kind of, when you're making these movies, you're making them for just like such a wide span of fans of so many ages who love this franchise.
In fact, I have a little story in that there was one animator on the show and she was just nailing Sid. She was just getting Sid down perfectly, all the mannerisms and everything. And I just texted her and said, hey, you're doing a great job with Sid. I'm so happy that you're doing it. He says, oh, well, Sid was my favorite character when I was 7 and I knew all the lines from the first movie. And so not only are we bringing it to new audiences, we're bringing it to new animators, and they're getting an opportunity to animate these characters that they grew up with and maybe even help influence them to become a career path. Aside from feeling a little bit elderly in those moments, it's pretty awesome. It's awesome to see them, the love that these characters have had and how important they were to be growing up. And now they're able to share it with their, in some cases with their children or still, these are family movies. So you can sit down and watch this with your kid, your nephew, your grandmother, it doesn't matter. It has an appeal to everybody in that range.
Wow. So there were kids who were inspired to become animators because of Ice Age, who are now working on Ice Age.
Exactly.
That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah, that was a little bit mind-blowing.
Yeah. Lori, I think you were going to say something. I want to...
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, Simon was telling us the other day that when Buck came out in Ice Age 3, when that movie came out, his daughter was born during that movie. And so all these years she's been living with Buck, and she basically is an Ice Age character, an Ice Age baby.
Yeah.
So to speak. And now that Buck is back again, she's a teenager. It's just her whole life has been sort of lived with Buck. Which is
forget Gen Z. It's Gen Ice Age now.
Yeah.
Are there any other characters in the Ice Age franchise that you feel like you would really like to focus on at some point that maybe haven't, like how Buck is kind of getting his due now? Is there anybody that you really want to highlight in the future?
There are lots of them. There are lots of them. I think there's so many that we could do that with. I'm not sure if that's what will happen, or if we'll, if another Ice Age will happen with all our regular characters. But I think any combination of that is fine with me.
There were talks of a 7th movie. What's going on with that? Is that happening?
I think it's a little premature. We hope that people will respond to this, and that will promote us to be able to do another movie. If the audiences want it, we've got plenty of ideas, no end to ideas and adventures and characters. So we're ready if they're ready.
Okay. Future of the franchise, bright if the fans want it.
Yes.
You got it.
Yeah. So in this movie, we do have some newcomers. Who are some of your favorites that you're really excited for fans of Ice Age to meet?
Oh, I think Z is a great character. Justina, John, you want to mention?
Yeah, I mean, I think both Z and Orson are amazing new additions to the franchise. I mean, Z was interesting because we wanted to have a character who could be every bit as tough and smart and wily as Buck. We're blessed with casting Justina in the role because she has that vigor and the spunk and the power that we needed to bring to this character. And she's a lot like Buck, only she's a little bit more rooted in reality. But what was really fun was to explore that Buck actually had somebody else, because we always think of him as a loner, but here he had this friend. And they had a falling out, and it was really kind of fun to dig into that and why did they have some trouble, and how come they weren't the superpowers like the boys were imagining in their heads, and so it was really, really fun to bring that flavor to the mix here, And then in Orson with Karsh's portrayal of him as our villain, we had so much fun developing that character, and we workshopped a lot with Karsh on, who the character is and what makes him tick and why is he the way he is. And, he thought of himself as the smartest guy in the universe. And we paired him with the two dumbest animals ever come up with his two little sidekicks, which drove him absolutely nuts. So we just had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, and I think, John, you had mentioned this at some point, but the idea of that the villain being so evil and so menacing, but at the same time, he also has his comedic sides, which makes him even more dangerous, really, because you never know which side he's going to be on. He's a jokester, but at the same time, he's really villainous.
And just lastly, does the Disney Plus of it all kind of, I know you were saying it's a little premature to talk about the future, but does that spark more ideas that could percolate going forward? Like, oh, I want to do a little short series, these types of things with the Ice Age characters. Are you thinking about that?
I'm always thinking about that, but I think, it's wonderful because, all of streaming now is happening, and there's so much content that is needed everywhere, that, our minds are always going with all different kinds of things and what we can do.
I think even as a generic answer to that, like Lori said, the streaming platforms are just going in all different directions, and there's so much need for content. It's been a real boom for the animation business, especially during the pandemic, because we keep making these things. This whole movie was made during the pandemic, but it opens up avenues to do movies that are maybe a little bit more niche. We're seeing some adult things, we're seeing some things that are just very sci-fi oriented and whatnot. And it might give us an opportunity to explore areas that we might not normally have been able to do. And in fact, Buck Wild being an example of taking a beloved character from a previous film and just expanding that, we could see that more of that, just because there's a demand, the audience is there, they want it. And, if they want it, we'll do more. That's the bottom line.
Awesome. Well, that is my time. So lovely talking to you both. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog snoring. He just started.
Really cute.
Thanks so much.
Talking to you.
Thanks, Kyle. Bye.